Good morning, traders. So how do we trade the DAX today? So we're still using the Bull-Williams theory, and I'm starting off on the weekly, and the only reason I'm doing this is just to highlight this head and shoulders here. So we ended up with an inside bar and another inside bar on the weekly, and the critical thing around this is this weekly 200 EMA. Okay, now we have been forming diversions for, what's this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 3 months now. So the last 3 months we have been forming diversions. And we did end up with a green bar, which is pretty interesting on the awesome oscillator, although you're really looking for 3 green bars before you can consider the trend change. Okay, so at this stage, this is looking very interesting. Now, the reality is that the futures market for the DAX at the moment is up 1.2% based on the political noise coming out of the US and China about putting a ceasefire to the trade war for 90 days, whatever that means. And we're sitting at 11,472. Okay, and we'll look at that on the lower time frame, but that should be a fairly significant gap up, pretty similar to the Dow Jones. So if we look at the daily on Friday was not really convincing. Pin bar, okay, but yeah, it's still not that convincing. Okay, so the question is what's going to happen today? And as I pointed out last week, this head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders on the awesome oscillator is fairly telling. That's normally a bottom pattern on the oscillator, and you should be looking for an entry long. Okay, so I don't think there'll be anything on the 4-hour that we can work with. Nothing really below the, from a price action perspective, we ended up with an inside bar, but we haven't had a fractional break. To the upside, we did get a fractional break to the downside. So there's our fractional break to the downside. So you would have people trading, looking for shorts here with a stop above this fractional. So not entirely convinced either way. Let's just get to the level that we can trade. Right. 1 hour. So this range did break. Okay, so the range that we've been looking at most of the week, we did get an hourly close below it. We did get some tests of the level, but the awesome oscillator is giving us no clues as to what's going on, no momentum at all, and yet we do have continuation divergence brewing here. Now, if we look at futures, we're sitting at, where's it again, 11,467. So still 11,470. Let's just try and line that up. I think it should be around there. Nope. 11,375. 11,470. Stupid. Okay. Okay. So that's way up here. Right. So as it stands now, we have 150, let's call it 150, just to be safe, point gap up. Okay, so that is going to be fairly significant. So what can I tell you about this? For me, 30 units would be the key here, and we're looking at fractional breaks. Okay, and right now we have gapped up above the fractional. So I would be looking for pullbacks. Probably, I don't know, there. So ideally I'd be looking for a pullback back into this, this zone here. So if you're not in this at the moment, I don't think you're going to get an opportunity to get in. You may But I would prefer some kind of a pullback. But something just tells me that we're not going to get a pullback, and this is going to be the catalyst for the Christmas rally. So my take on this is pretty simple. You need to figure out, you need to find an entry, and the only way you're going to find your entry is going to be on a lower time frame. So we can't even, there's nothing here to do this. Sorry, there's actually nowhere to get in. I would definitely look for some kind of pullback into this area, or maybe, it moves down before the open and comes and finds some support somewhere. So I think what I'm saying to you is pay attention to your levels. So get your levels in, pick up your 4-hour fractals. That's going to be the easiest, okay, because those would be decent levels. And what you want to do is you want to find a level where you can get into the market. Now, there's nothing, with a big gap up, I'm not so sure we're going to, we may continue, but I'm not so sure that we're going to continue. I mean, these gaps at the moment are massive. US markets gapped up. Oh, what's it? Yeah, almost 2% at the moment. So never say never, but I'd be a little bit cautious at the moment. But as I say, the news that's come through could very well be the catalyst that's going to drive the market forward. And if I look at sort of just looking at price action on the 4-hour, you can see we had this wedge break here, or channel break, whichever one you want to look at it. Sort of we rallied sideways down, probably a 61.8 Fibonacci as well. Oops, wrong one. That's the one we're looking for, from that low to that high. Yeah, 61.8 pullback, and we're bouncing off. So technically, if we just look at price action, what we're looking for is sort of that kind of thing. Where does that take us to? 11,550. Okay, so maybe this tail here, alternatively this tail here, these tails here, are going to give us some kind of a resistance for a bounce back. So, and this will line up with the 200 EMA. So our gap, what is this? This is 11,490. So that's pretty close to where price is at the moment. So what I'm suggesting is the follows. So if I just use this measured move line here, and pull that down back to where it was. Right. So what I'm suggesting happens here is we gap up. Okay, so we're going to gap up with this here, and we are going to sort of tag somewhere in this area. Then what I would expect to happen is us to come down a little bit, something like that, and then we get this second measured move here. Okay, something like that, and let's see what it does. This bottom here would make the most sense, which would also be the 161 extension. So that would make the most sense anyway. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment. So I think the point is wait for the gap, wait for that first hour of pre-trading, and then hopefully maybe it just sort of meanders down that you can get an entry to get in long. Otherwise, what you need to be doing is watch what happens on the 12 minute. Watch that first hour on the 12 minutes and then get into the market after that. Okay, so yeah, so the bias is definitely up. The only question is, where do you get in? Now, I just want to close off with the ichimoku quickly. So 12 minutes is bullish. 30 minutes had the bullish crossover. That's about it. So there's nothing really to write home about there. We are heading towards a crossover here. And what I do want to do is just put that flat cloud in there, which is 11,347. And if we look at the hour, we haven't had a crossover. Okay, we look at the 4 hour. We had a crossover, and then we had it coming together here. So this is probably going to turn out to be our second crossover. So this, you can see on the 4 hour, Ichimoku was telling you that bullish through price on Kijinsen. So that is also bullish. We had a twist, that's bullish. And we're back in the cloud, and we're just meandering around. And now we're back out the cloud. So this is a fairly strong bullish signal at the moment. We're going to get a crossover above the cloud, twist, and this is above price. So that is going to be a fairly strong signal. Okay, and the ones that you need to worry about is obviously the bottom of the cloud on the daily. 11,594 area, somewhere around there. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm expecting. And it depends on what time frame you're playing, but I think on the daily what you'll find is we'll have a nice big green day, and then maybe a little bit of smaller candles, maybe sideways, ever so slightly up, then down, and then you want to break through the cloud. So the key thing on the daily is to get through this cloud. But anyway, the bias is up, and I think what you need to be doing is watch the 12-15 minute charts for the first hour if possible. If you've got stuff to do or meetings, anything, cancel them, lock yourself in a dark room and watch what's going on here. You can get your entry, because this could very well be the catalyst of the Christmas rally. Okay, so that's kind of my view for today. Looking for a long, but we'll wait for the first pullback, even if it is 3 or 4 bars on the 12 minute, something like this. Definitely will look for the pullback. Okay, and sorry, last thing before I leave, just make sure that your levels are in. Okay, get your levels on the 1 hour. It's on a higher time frame. Okay, so what you want to do is just put your levels in. I find it easier in this situation when I'm expecting it to run, just to put it up on the top of the tails. Okay, so all of these tails. And then what you'll find is price will rally up to one of these areas, and then it'll consolidate on a lower time frame. So then I come to the 12 minute. So I can see we're going to get a gap up. We're up into my levels, and then we sort of consolidate, and then we drop down a bit. And then if you just watch that price action, what you'll find is you'll be able to have a stop loss just below the level, and then you wait for the first bit of price action that shows you that it's going up, and you get in. So in a case like this, I could have a 30-point stop loss. So with this very small accounts that I've got, I could have a fairly large trade with a fairly tight stop loss, and then let it run. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. I am looking for longs. The question is where we're going to get in. I don't think we're going to get deep pullbacks. So the trick is to get onto low time frame, watch price action, simple things like pin bars, engulfing bars, inside bars, preferably off a level on the downside. That's why I draw in my levels on the top of the tails on the 1 hour at the moment, because I'm looking to tighten it up. If I draw it on the 4 hour, what you will find is they will line up as well. You can see those two line up pretty well. But yeah, I mean, for example, a break of this fractal here is definitely a trigger long. Okay. Anyway, so that's my view on the day. I hope it helps, and yeah, hopefully this is a Christmas rally and we can get a really nice swing trade in for December. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll catch you later. Cheers for now.